After months of sluggish sales activity, Vancouver's real estate market made a sharp rebound in the month of October, with sales increasing over 40% relative to September and up over 30% relative to this time last year. So what exactly are we seeing in the market right now, and how is this impacting prices? I'm Adina with Adina YVR Vancouver Real Estate Group at Oakland Realty, here with your November 2024 market update. Let's jump right into the numbers and take a look at what's happening. Starting off looking at sales, we had just over 2,600 home sales registered on the MLS in the month of October. This is up 42% relative to September, and it's up 32% relative to this time last year. And this was 5.5% below the 10-year sales average for the month of October. And while it's still tracking a little bit below the 10-year sales average, if you remember the last few months, we've been tracking 20 to 25% below the 10-year sales average. So 5.5% below that average shows that we're coming back into balanced territory. Looking at this by property type, we see that sales of detached homes reached 724 in the month of October. This is up 40% relative to September, and it's up 26% relative to October last year. For attached townhomes and duplexes, we had 501 sales in the month of October. This is up 32.5% relative to September, and it's up 41% relative to October of last year. For condo apartments, we had 1,393 sales in the month of October, and this is up 48% relative to September, and it's up 33% relative to October of last year. So it's clear buyers have been more active, but what about sellers? On the supply side, we had just under 5,500 homes listed for sale on the MLS in the month of October. This is down 11% relative to the month of September, and it's still up about 17% relative to this time last year. Relative to the 10-year sales average for the month of October, we're 20% above that. Looking at the total supply of homes available for sale in our market, we have just under 14,500 homes listed for sale on the MLS. This is down 3% relative to September, but it's up 25% relative to this time last year, and it's 26% above the 10-year sales average for the month of October. So overall, we're seeing a healthy supply of homes available for sale in the marketplace. But what we're also seeing is that the pace of new listings coming onto the market is starting to decline, while the pace of sales is starting to increase. So the balance between the two is shifting. And it's this balance between sales and active inventory that ultimately drives whether prices are on their way up or down. And this is exactly what the sales to active listings ratio is. We're looking at the number of sales in a given month divided by the active listings left over at the end of that month. When this ratio is above 21% for a sustained period of time, we're in seller's market territory and prices are typically on their way up. And when this ratio is below 12% for a sustained period of time, we're in buyer's market territory and prices are on their way down. Anything in between 12 to 21%, we're in balanced market territory and prices typically stabilize. In the month of October, our sales to active listings ratio was 18.8%. This is a significant increase from September, where we were at just 12.8%, and it's the highest we've seen this ratio since May of this year, and that was right when the market started turning. Looking at this by property type, for detached homes, it's currently 13.4%, so in balanced market territory, and it's up from 9.1% in September when it was in buyer's market territory. For attached townhomes and duplexes, we're at 22.5%, so we're technically in seller's market territory, and this is up from 16.9% in September when it was in balanced market territory. And for condo apartments, it's at 22.2%, which is technically in seller's market territory, and it's up from 14.6% in September when it was in balanced market territory. So let's take a look at pricing. The HPI composite benchmark price for all property types is currently $1,172,000. This is down 0.6% relative to September, and it's down almost 2% relative to October last year. Looking at this by property type, we see that the benchmark price for detached homes is currently $2,002,900. This represents a decrease of 1% relative to September, and it's a 0.3% increase relative to October last year. For attached townhomes and duplexes, the benchmark price is currently $1,108,800. This represents an increase of almost 1% relative to September, and it's an increase of 0.4% relative to October last year. For condo apartments, the benchmark price is currently $757,200. This represents a decrease of 0.6% relative to September, and it's a decrease of 1.6% relative to October last year. So what's ahead for our market? Well, what we've seen on the ground is that the significant change came in the second half of October after the Bank of Canada reduced their rates. What we personally saw is that some of our listings that had been sitting on the market for months, which is unusual, but it was a slower market, all of a sudden got multiple offers, and a lot of our buyers who had been looking for months all of a sudden were in multiple offer conditions. And I expect that this pace of activity is likely going to continue to heat up. And this is simply because we're seeing more buyers jump off the sidelines into the market now with the assurance that rates have already come down and they'll likely come down again in September. At the same time, we're seeing sellers become less active, which is just traditional for this time of year. As we get closer to the holidays and the new year, sellers aren't that keen to put list their homes for sale in the market and decide to wait until the spring. And this is reminiscent of the trend we saw at the same time last year, where we had a slower summer and early fall market, and then things started to heat up as we headed into the end of the year. And we started off the year with a very hot market because we had very low inventory levels and buyers were very eager to jump in. So while no one could perfectly predict what's going to happen, all the trends and signs seem to be pointing towards that direction right now. And if we look back at that trend, the people who got the best deals were the ones who made that move right as the market was starting to pick up at the end of the year and very early in January. So my message to our clients is that if you're thinking of making a move in the coming months or in the coming year, right now is the time to look at your options and create that strategy to try to get ahead of the trend. So if you're thinking of making a move, whether it's getting into the market, moving your way up the market, or even downsizing or investing, and you want to discuss your options, you could schedule a consultation by clicking the link below here on YouTube, or you can click the link in my bio on Instagram. To stay up to date with what's happening in the market in the meantime, be sure to subscribe here on YouTube and follow me on Instagram at adina.yvr. That's it for now. Have a great rest of the month, and I can't wait to see you in December.